Imagine a temple complex built 6,500 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza by people who hadn't even started farming. Picture stones weighing up to 360 tons fitted together so tightly without mortar that you can't slide a piece of paper between them, high in the Andes. Think about perfectly cut, identical H-shaped blocks made from super hard andesite rock, looking almost machine-made, found scattered at 12,800 feet elevation. And consider thousands of giant stones, some weighing as much as several cars, arranged in precise lines stretching for miles, by folks from over 7,000 years ago. Number 6. Newgrange, Ireland. Way out in County Meath, Ireland, there's a giant, ancient circular mound that looks like a gentle hill from a distance. Get closer, and you realize this is no ordinary hill. This is Newgrange, and it's older than the pyramids in Egypt, older even than Stonehenge. We're talking about a structure built around 3,200 BC. That's over 5,000 years ago. So, what's so special about it? Well, Newgrange is a massive passage tomb. It's a big circular mound, about 250 feet across and 40 feet high, covering about an acre of land. It's made of alternating layers of earth and stones, and it's faced with white quartz cobblestones. These weren't just lying around. They were brought from about 50 miles away from the Wicklow Mountains. The entrance is marked by a huge, beautifully carved stone called curbstone, one famous for its triple spiral design. Inside, a long, narrow passage, about 60 feet long, leads to a cross-shaped chamber with a corbelled roof. This roof is an engineering marvel all by itself. It's made of large, flat stones, each one layered slightly inwards from the one below it, until they meet at the top, about 20 feet above the floor. For 5,000 years, this roof has remained completely waterproof. Think about that. No leaks for 5 millennia. Modern houses sometimes spring leaks after a few decades. How did they figure out the exact angling and layering to achieve this, using only stone tools? Passage and chamber are built from massive stone slabs, some weighing several tons. The largest of these orthostats or upright stones can weigh up to 5 tons. These weren't just picked up and plunked down. They were carefully chosen, transported, and fitted. The builders even carved intricate designs, like spirals, chevrons, and circles, onto many of these stones, using its believed flint or quartzite tools. But here's the really mind-bending part. Above the entrance to the passage, there's a special opening called a roof box. This isn't just a random hole. For a few days around the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the rising sun shines directly through this roof box, down the long passage, and illuminates the floor of the inner chamber. This light show lasts for about 17 minutes. Imagine the precision needed to align this structure so perfectly with the sun, using only the knowledge and tools available 5,000 years ago. They didn't have GPS or lasers. They had observation, patience, and some serious smarts. The sheer amount of material moved is staggering. The mound itself contains an estimated 200,000 tons of stone and earth. Curbstones surrounding the base, 97 of them, are huge, some weighing several tons and intricately decorated. How were these massive stones quarried, transported, often over considerable distances, and then lifted into place? Some of the decorative stones, like the quartz from the Wicklow Mountains and granitic boulders from the Mourne Mountains, came from 50 to 70 miles away. Moving these across varied terrain without wheels or advanced hauling technology presents a huge logistical puzzle. The people who built Newgrange were Neolithic, or New Stone Age, farmers. They had a complex society, clearly, to organize a workforce capable of such a feat. They had beliefs about the afterlife and the cosmos, but the exact methods they used to achieve such precise astronomical alignment, such a durable waterproof structure, and the transport and erection of such heavy stones remain subjects of intense study. They left no written records, only this incredible monument that speaks volumes about their ingenuity. It's a testament to what humans can achieve, even with tools that we might consider basic today. The engineering logic they employed was sophisticated, even if we don't fully understand all its aspects. Number 5. The Carnac Stones, France. Picture this. Thousands upon thousands of standing stones, called menhirs, arranged in long, neat rows stretching for miles across the countryside in Brittany, northwestern France. This isn't a small collection. It's the largest such site in the world. We're talking about the Carnac Stones, and they are seriously old, dating back to the Neolithic period, roughly between 4,500 BC and 3,300 BC. That makes some of them older than Newgrange and way older than Stonehenge. The scale is just astounding. There are more than 3,000 of these prehistoric standing stones. They are cut from local granite, and they vary in size. Some are just a couple of feet tall, while others tower over 20 feet high and weigh many tons. The largest, known as the Agent du Manio, is over 6.5 meters, 21 feet tall. Imagine the effort to quarry that, shape it, even roughly, and then, somehow, stand it upright. These stones aren't just randomly scattered. They are organized into distinct groups or alignments. The main ones are Lamenic, Camario, and Curlesque. Lamenic is the largest, with 1,099 menhirs arranged in 11 rows, stretching for nearly 3/4 of a mile long and about 330 feet wide. The stones get smaller as you move from west to east. Camario is known for having the largest stones, with 1,029 menhirs in 10 rows, over a similar distance. This alignment also includes a dolmen, a type of single-chamber megalithic tomb at its eastern end. Curlescan has 555 stones in 13 shorter rows, with a stone circle at one end. There are also smaller alignments, like Petit Menic. So, what's the engineering puzzle here? First, the sheer number of stones. Quarrying, shaping, even nimbly transporting and erecting over 3,000 stones, some weighing dozens of tons, is a monumental undertaking. What kind of workforce did this require? How was it organized over what was likely generations? The local granite is tough. Tools available were stone, bone, and wood. How did they split these huge boulders from the bedrock? How did they move them, even short distances, and then get them perfectly upright in the ground? Think about the logistics. You need to identify suitable rock. You need to quarry it. Then you need to move it. Some of these stones weigh as much as several large cars. Without wheels, the wheel for transport wasn't common in Europe then. How did they do it? Log rollers, sledges pulled by teams of people or oxen. Over what kind of terrain? And then the really tricky part, lifting them into a vertical position and securing them so they'd stay that way for millennia. It would have required ropes, levers, ramps, and a whole lot of human muscle and coordination. Then there's the layout. These aren't just random lines. They are often parallel, carefully spaced. Some theories suggest they might have astronomical alignments, perhaps related to the sun or moon, or served as a kind of calendar. If so, The surveying skills required to lay out these vast patterns across undulating countryside, ensuring consistent spacing and direction over miles, would have been incredibly sophisticated for the time. How did they maintain straight lines over such distances? How did they ensure the patterns made sense from whatever vantage point they were intended for? People who built Carnac were Neolithic farming communities. They left no written language, so the exact purpose of these stones is still debated by archaeologists. Were they religious sites, territorial markers, astronomical observatories? We don't have a definitive answer, but what we do have is the undeniable physical evidence of a massive, coordinated long-term engineering project. They managed to transform their landscape on a scale that's hard to comprehend, using methods that required immense practical knowledge of physics, materials, and labor management. Carnac Stones stand as a silent, sprawling testament to an engineering logic that, while different from our own, was clearly effective and ambitious. The sheer effort involved in creating something so vast, with such rudimentary tools, continues to baffle and impress. Number 4. Stonehenge, UK. Everyone knows Stonehenge. Those iconic standing stones on Salisbury Plain in England. It's one of the most famous prehistoric monuments in the world. But just because it's famous doesn't mean it's fully understood. In fact, how it was built, especially certain parts of it, still presents some serious head-scratchers for engineers and archaeologists. Stonehenge wasn't built all at once. It evolved over a very long period, starting around 3000 BC and continuing in phases for at least 1,500 years. The version we see today, with the massive sarsens and the smaller blue stones, is from a later phase, around 2500 BC. Talk about the stones, because that's where the engineering mystery really kicks in. There are two main types. The larger stones are called sarsens. These are a type of sandstone, and they are huge. The biggest ones, the uprights of the main trilithons, two uprights with a lintel stone on top, weigh up to 40 or 50 tons each. That's like weighing 7 or 8 adult elephants. These sarsens were sourced from Marlborough Downs, about 20 miles north of Stonehenge. Moving 40-ton stones 20 miles across the countryside, which wasn't flat and smooth, is a challenge even today with modern equipment. How did they do it 4,500 years ago? It's thought they used sledges and rollers, pulled by hundreds of people. The exact techniques, the number of people, the time it took, it's still debated. Then there are the blue stones. These are smaller, only weighing between 2 and 5 tons each. But here's the kicker. They come from the Prehistoric Hills in Wales. That's over 150 miles away from Stonehenge. And the journey wasn't easy. It involved crossing land, possibly some sea or river routes. Why go to all that trouble to bring these specific stones from so far away? We don't know for sure, but they clearly had a special significance. Transporting 80 or so of these stones, each weighing several tons, over such a vast and difficult distance, is an astonishing feat of logistics and determination for a Neolithic Bronze Age culture. Once the stones arrived at the site, the work wasn't over. The sarsens, in particular, were shaped. They weren't just rough boulders. They were dressed to have relatively smooth surfaces. More impressively, they were shaped with mortise and tenon joints like woodworking, but in stone. The upright sarsens have tenons, knobs, carved on their tops, which fit into mortise holes, cavities, carved into the underside of the lintel stones. This helped lock the lintels in place. Some lintels were also connected to each other using a tongue and groove system. This kind of stoneworking on such massive hard stones using only stone mauls, big hammer stones, and possibly flint tools required incredible skill and patience. How did they achieve such precision? And then, how did they lift these massive stones upright? And how did they get the lintels, some weighing around 7 tons, on top of uprights that are 13 feet high? It's generally believed they used a combination of ramps, either earth or timber, levers, and frames, along with a lot of pulling power from people. Imagine the coordination needed. One wrong move, and the multi-ton stone could crush someone or shatter. Precision required to not only lift, but also to align the mortise and tenon joints is truly impressive. The layout of Stonehenge also shows sophisticated understanding. The main axis is aligned with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. This suggests a deep knowledge of astronomy and the ability to survey and lay out a complex circular design with accuracy. So we have stones transported over incredible distances, massive weights lifted and precisely placed, complex joinery carved into incredibly hard rock. All of this achieved by people who, according to mainstream archaeology, didn't have metal tools harder than copper, which is relatively soft, during the main sarsen construction phase, didn't have the wheel for transport, and didn't have a written language to pass down complex engineering plans. Stonehenge is a monument that forces us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient people. Their engineering logic might have been different, based on empirical knowledge passed down through generations, but it was clearly highly effective and allowed them to achieve things that seem almost impossible for their technological. Number 3. Sacsayhuaman, Peru. High up in the Andes Mountains, overlooking the city of Cusco, Peru, sits an incredible ancient fortress called Sacsayhuaman. The name is Quechua, and its meaning is debated, but the site itself is just jaw-dropping. While some of it was built by the Inca around the 13th to 15th centuries AD, there are theories that parts of its foundations are much older, possibly built by cultures predating the Inca. Regardless of its exact age, the stonework here is some of the most impressive you'll find anywhere on Earth. What makes Sacsayhuaman so astounding is its walls. These aren't just ordinary stone walls. They are made of absolutely enormous boulders, some of the largest used in any ancient construction. We're talking about stones that are estimated to weigh anywhere from 120 tons to, some sources say, as much as 200 or even 360 tons. Put that in perspective, a 120-ton stone is heavier than a blue whale. A 360-ton stone is like 60 adult African elephants snacked together. These aren't nice, neat, rectangular blocks either. Many of them are polygonal, meaning they have many sides, often irregular, fitting together like a giant, incredibly complex jigsaw puzzle, and the fit. This is where it truly boggles the mind. These multi-ton, irregularly shaped stones are fitted together so precisely, without any mortar, that in many places you can't even slip a thin piece of paper or a razor blade between them. Some stones have up to 12 angles, all perfectly interlocking with their neighbors. Think about the process. First, you have to quarry these massive limestone boulders. The main quarry is believed to be about 2 kilometers away, but some stones came from even further, up to 20 miles. Terrain is mountainous and rugged. How did they transport these colossal blocks? The Inca didn't have wheeled vehicles for heavy transport, nor did they have draft animals like horses or oxen. The llamas were used for packing, but not for pulling such immense weights. It's thought they used immense manpower, perhaps thousands of workers, using fiber ropes, ramps, and possibly rollers or levers to drag these stones across the landscape. The sheer organization and effort are almost unimaginable. One chronicler, Garcilaso de la Vega, who was of mixed Spanish and Inca heritage, wrote about the construction, mentioning that one particularly large stone being moved fell and crushed several thousand workers. While this number might be an exaggeration, it highlights the immense danger and difficulty. Then how did they shape these stones so perfectly? The limestone. Tools available were harder stone hammers, like diorite, and perhaps bronze chisels. Bronze is relatively soft and wouldn't last long against limestone for this kind of precision work. To get that kind of fit, where irregular surfaces match up perfectly, is an incredible feat. Some suggest they might have painstakingly pounded and ground the stones against each other, or used a scribing and coping method, tracing the shape of one stone onto another and then carefully chipping away. But to do this on such a massive scale with such enormous blocks achieving those seamless joints is an engineering puzzle. Some of the surfaces are also incredibly smooth, almost polished. And how were these giants lifted into place? Some of the walls are over 60 feet high, in 3 terraced tiers. Lifting a 100-ton or 200-ton boulder tens of feet into the air and maneuvering it to fit perfectly against its neighbors is a task that would challenge modern engineers even with cranes. Earth ramps are the most common explanation, but the precision needed to set the stone without damaging the already placed stones and to achieve that tight fit is extraordinary. The walls of Sacsayhuman are also designed to be earthquake resistant. The inward lean of the walls, the rounded corners, and the way the stones interlock give the structure flexibility to withstand the frequent seismic activity in the region. This shows a sophisticated understanding of structural engineering. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they were so amazed by Sacsayhuman that they couldn't believe it was built by the Incas alone. Some even attributed it to demons or giants because the scale seemed superhuman. While it was indeed the Incas who built or rebuilt much of what we see, the methods they employed to quarry, transport, shape, and fit these colossal stones with such mind-boggling precision remain a testament to an engineering prowess that still fills us with wonder. They were masters of stone masonry, achieving results that defy easy explanation given their known tukike. Number 2. Pumapunku, Bolivia. Get ready for this one, because Pumapunku is a place that makes even seasoned engineers scratch their heads. Located near the ancient city of Tiwanaku in western Bolivia, high on the Altiplano at an altitude of about 12,800 feet, Pumapunku, meaning Gateway of the Puma in Aymara, is a sprawling field of incredibly precisely cut stone blocks, generally attributed to the Tiwanaku culture, flourishing between 300 AD and 1000 AD, making it pre-Inca. What you see at Pumapunku today looks like a giant's Lego set that got knocked over. Massive stone blocks, some weighing dozens of tons, are strewn across the landscape. But these aren't just rough-hewn boulders. These are some of the most astonishingly worked stones from the ancient world. 2 main types of stone used are red sandstone and andesite. The red sandstone blocks are large, forming parts of courtyards and foundations, with the biggest weighing an estimated 131 tons. That's like 20 large elephants. These were quarried about 6 miles away. Transporting them to the site at that altitude would have been a monumental effort, but it's the andesite blocks that really steal the show and present the biggest engineering mystery. Andesite is an incredibly hard volcanic rock, around a 6 to 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. Diamond is a 10. Very difficult to work with even modern tools. Yet, at Pumapunku, you find andesite blocks cut with such precision that it's hard to believe they were made with the tools typically associated with the Tiwanaku culture: stone hammers, bronze chisels, copper arsenic bronze, which is harder than pure copper, but still relatively soft compared to andesite, and possibly obsidian. Let's talk about the precision. Many blocks have perfectly flat faces, razor-sharp right angles, and complex interlocking shapes. Some of the most famous are the H blocks. There are several of these, all remarkably uniform in size and shape, about 2.5 feet tall. They have intricate cuts, with multiple planes and angles, looking almost as if they were machine-milled or molded. How could such complex identical shapes be carved out of hard andesite with such accuracy using primitive tools? Each H block has around 80 surfaces, with sharp, precise edges. Then there are the straightness of the cuts and the smoothness of the surfaces. Some surfaces are polished to an almost mirror-like finish. You can find grooves that are perfectly straight and only millimeters wide, running for considerable lengths. Some blocks have what appear to be drill holes, some of which are small and precise. Trying to achieve this level of precision on andesite with stone or soft bronze tools seems almost impossible. Engineers have noted that the tolerances are incredibly fine, sometimes within fractions of a millimeter. How were these blocks cut? Some theories suggest laborious grinding and polishing with abrasive materials, but the sheer number of perfectly straight lines, sharp corners, and complex internal angles challenges this. There are no saw marks that would indicate large saws, and bronze saws would wear down incredibly quickly against andesite. The original purpose of Pumapunku is thought to be a temple complex or ceremonial center. The blocks seem to have been part of a larger, sophisticated structure, perhaps with metal clamps. Some blocks have eye-shaped indentations that might have held such clamps, though the metal itself is long gone. The site was never finished, or was later dismantled or destroyed, possibly by an earthquake or social upheaval. The sheer weight of the stones is another factor. The largest andesite block is estimated at around 85 tons. Moving these, shaping them with such incredible finesse, and then assembling them into a complex structure at such a high altitude with the limited oxygen levels would have required an incredible level of skill, planning, and labor. Pumapunku makes us question our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. The Tiwanaku people were clearly highly advanced in many ways, but the stonework at Pumapunku pushes the boundaries of what is considered achievable with their known tukwe. Precision, the complexity of the cuts, and the hardness of the material combine to create a profound engineering enigma. The facts on the ground, the stones themselves, speak of a level of mastery that is frankly astonishing and continues to defy simple explanations. Number 1. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. Prepare to have your understanding of early human history completely rocked. In southeastern Turkey, on a barren hilltop, lies Göbekli Tepe, which translates to Potbelly Hill. What archaeologists have unearthed here over the last few decades has rewritten the story of human civilization. This isn't just an old site, it's the oldest known megalithic structure in the world. We're talking about a temple complex built around 9,600 BC. That's about 11,600 years ago. To put that into perspective, Göbekli Tepe is roughly 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It's 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. This was built by people who were, according to traditional timelines, hunter-gatherers. They hadn't yet developed pottery. They hadn't domesticated plants for agriculture on a large scale. They hadn't domesticated animals, except possibly dogs. They supposedly lived in small nomadic bands. And yet, they built this. So, what is Göbekli Tepe? It's a series of roughly circular and oval-shaped structures, or enclosures. So far, About 20 have been identified through ground-penetrating radar, though only a few have been excavated. The most striking features of these enclosures are the massive T-shaped limestone pillars. These pillars are huge. Many are around 10 to 16 feet tall and weigh between 7 and 10 tons. Some are even bigger. One unfinished pillar still in a nearby quarry is nearly 23 feet long and estimated to weigh around 50 tons. These pillars are not just plain stone. Many of them are intricately carved with reliefs of animals: foxes, snakes, boars, gazelles, cranes, lions, vultures. There are also abstract symbols and some depictions of human-like figures, often with arms carved along their sides, hands pointing towards their bellies, suggesting the T shape represents a stylized human form. The level of artistry and the skill in carving these hard limestone pillars are incredible for people supposedly just emerging from the Stone Age. The engineering challenges here are immense. First, quarrying these multi-ton pillars from the limestone bedrock. Quarries are located on the same plateau, sometimes hundreds of meters away. The tools available would have been flint and other hard stone tools. How did they cut and shape these massive blocks with such precision, using only stone on stone? Some pillars are remarkably smooth and well-formed. Then, how did they transport these 10-ton, 20-ton, or even 50-ton for the unfinished one, pillars from the quarry to the construction site? This was before the invention of the wheel, before draft animals were domesticated for heavy pulling. It would have required a massive, coordinated human effort, hundreds of people perhaps, using ropes, wooden sledges, and rollers over uneven terrain. Imagine the organization needed, the sheer muscle power. And then, erecting these pillars. They were set into sockets cut into the bedrock, or placed in shallow depressions and supported by stone walls built between them. Lifting a 10-ton pillar upright and securing it safely is no small feat. The central pillars, in some enclosures, are particularly large and stand freely. The enclosures themselves are also sophisticated. The walls are made of unworked or roughly worked stones, packed with debris. The floors were often made of terrazzo, like polished lime. The entire complex seems to have been built in phases over many centuries, and mysteriously, each enclosure appears to have been deliberately and carefully buried with tons of debris, soil, stone chippings, animal bones, after a period of use, with new enclosures sometimes built on top or nearby. Why they buried them is another huge puzzle. Göbekli Tepe shatters the old idea that agriculture came first, leading to settled societies, which then developed complex religion and monumental architecture. Here, it seems, hunter-gatherers came together to build these massive ceremonial centers before the widespread adoption of agriculture. Some archaeologists even suggest that the need to feed the large workforce required for such sustained construction projects might have been a catalyst for the development of farming in the region. The existence of Göbekli Tepe demonstrates that early humans were capable of complex social organization, sophisticated planning, advanced stonemasonry, and incredible feats of engineering far earlier than previously thought. They had a rich, symbolic, and spiritual life. How did these hunter-gatherer groups, presumably small and mobile, manage to coordinate labor on such a grand scale? What knowledge of mechanics and materials did they possess to quarry, transport, and erect these colossal carved pillars? The engineering logic they employed, with the tools at their disposal, allowed them to create something that stood for millennia and still inspires awe and bafflement today. It truly makes you wonder what else we might be missing about our deep past.